All right guys, really excited to show you what's about to happen here with my bike. We're down here in beautiful San Diego. It's a May gray day. Happy to announce that I'm collaborating with Luxon MX to get this bike set up with some really trick parts. So let's take a look inside. How you doing?
All right, how are you?
Great. My name's Brian.
Billy, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Billy. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to collaborate with you on making some really sick parts for the Stark Varg, and I'm sure you're going to make some really trick stuff for this bike. And you know, I think customers around the world are really going to benefit from this. So it's going to be a sick collaboration, and can't wait to see what you have in store for us.
Yeah, pretty excited to look at this thing and make something cool for it.
Awesome. So Billy, your first look at the Stark Varg in person. What do you think so far?
Looks to be really good build quality. Obviously some top-notch components and Brembo stuff and KYB. So it looks pretty cool.
How badly do you want to ride this thing?
I'd definitely like to take it for a spin.
It's like I'd see the electrons flowing in the brain of his right now. Trying to think about all the cool products he can make for this thing. Just checking out this intricate phone mount.
This looks
Do you want to see the phone real quick?
Yeah.
It's in my pocket. It's pretty rad. Just an Android phone. It's an actual working phone. But if you dock it in there, clip it down, start the bike. Then you have the ability to change power maps. Isn't that a dream? Like, you are an engine tuner at your fingertips. How sick is that?
Well, it's really cool is you can be an engine tuner and not screw something up.
Yeah,
Just run a gas bike.
right.
Blow motors.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I want a little bit more power, a little bit more engine braking, and soon there's going to be even more tunability options in here. Right now we have power and engine braking, but we'll have traction control and virtual flywheel effect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's super rad.
Does it blink all the time?
So yeah, it's just a status indicator. So blinking means it's on, but it's not active. And then if you hit the down map switch, that means it's active. And then if you twist the throttle here, it's got a lot of power. And that's only in 62 horsepower mode. And I was barely cracking the throttle. It's could definitely be a handful, but it's very manageable. That's for sure.
Well, let's take it apart.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, initial assessment of some of the parts on the bike. Billy's taking a nice close look at these pretty trick triple clamps. He's impressed, but I think he's got some initial impressions. So what do you think, Billy?
So one thing that's always jumped out at me just from looking at pictures and before I even saw the bike in person was they put the pinch bolts backwards from how they should, in my opinion at least. Generally the pinch bolts on like all our clamps are up front on the top clamp and in back on the bottom clamp. Having them opposing is good because if you were to twist this fork tube, there's one that wants to always collapse and hold it tighter no matter which direction you want to twist it. So that's good. But with them back here, they potentially hit your knees. If you have a nice smooth surface and then they're up here, then it's a lot better. Also, some handguard mounts will mount to the pinch bolts, and you can't do that if they're in the back. So that's always kind of jumped out at me. The machining is somewhat intricate, not ridiculously intricate, but it's on the level of like a KTM factory clamp.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, from a brand new manufacturer, right? And you know, typically you don't see this on an OEM bike unless it's, you know, say like a factory edition bike where you're paying super extra for it. This is the base model bike. You get this with every bike you buy. So in that sense, it is quite impressive.
Yeah. yeah, I'll know more when you take these things off and weigh them and take some closer look at the details. But yeah, it looks fairly impressive from this standpoint now.
All right, so I think we're gonna grab some wrenches and tools and take this front end apart.
So basically we're using the CNC machine as a kind of CMM. I've got a part probe here, and I can go and find where things are in space and their sizes. So if we know where they all are relative to one another, I can tell what offsets are and what diameters are, where the fender pattern is, all that good stuff. So for this one, for example, we just need a job more or less in the middle, not super critical. And then start the probing cycle. It'll go probe off on 3 points, which will define a circle, so it should know more or less where the center is for real. And then I'll go and probe it again. That'll give me diameter of that bore as well as location on the machine. And I can repeat that for the 4-tube bores and where the fender posts are, and I'll know all its dimensions relative to one another so I can determine where everything really is.
And this is as accurate as it gets.
Well, accurate enough.
Accurate enough, okay.
Within 2/10,000ths of an inch, which is pretty accurate. Here's our dimensions. Where we are on the machine, which is rather irrelevant to everybody, but there's the diameter. So then we accept that. And there's our position there. Now we can grab another coordinate from another part of it and repeat. That's how we got everything we want.
I know there's a lot of guys out there probably watching this right now that are just geeking out like I am. I love this stuff. It's not very often an average Joe motocross like myself gets a look into this kind of stuff. So here you go, giving you guys a glimpse, and thankfully Billy at Luxon MX are setting me up with this. The master's all ready to work, designing new products for the Stark Varg. We're going to stay a little bit away from the details of this, but super excited for what's to come, guys. Can't wait to show you. So one thing I really find interesting is the software technology we have today. Is super accurate so long as you get all the dimensions right. So here we have a very accurate scale weighing the steering stem on the Stark Varg at 284 grams, and this isn't out to a decimal place, so it's probably rounded. And then we come over to SolidWorks after Bill just designed the part, and we can see it's estimated at 283.8 grams. Isn't that incredible, guys? And check this out. The very first Luxon part number for the Stark. Here you go. Pretty rad. It's starting. This is the lower clamp on the Stark. 675 grams. We have the top clamp here weighing in at 530 grams. All right, so what do you want to show us?
Let me give you a quick tour.
All right.
This is the main engineering side. Most everything is designed, well, everything is designed in-house right here. Usually right there at my desk.
Can we take a peek at the desk?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess.
And guys, this is pretty informal. I'm not like a crazy YouTuber or anything. I'm just some guy that loves dirt bikes, and Billy here is nice enough to collaborate with me, so really excited about this partnership and just rolling with it. So really informal, kind of just touring the place and talking to Billy and hanging out, really. So here we go.
Yeah, so my desk, it's a bit of a mess. I'm in the middle of 13 different
Looks
things
like my
at once.
desk at home.
Yeah. So everything is designed and engineered here. Most everything is manufactured here, and we'll show you all that area.
Yeah, quite a facility back here. Wait till you guys see this.
So we run two companies out of here. There's the motocross company you're all familiar with, and then we have an engineering consulting firm. We do general mechanical engineering work, so that's the bulk of our business, really.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that really drew me to your guys is just your engineering background and how open you are with all of your detail and engineering. Like, I'm a data science guy myself, and I just love seeing that content. Like,
Yeah.
so I think the content you guys release and show is just awesome, like more so than anybody else in the industry. So super stoked on this.
Yeah, that's the goal, to really be more transparent and
Yep.
really show off what we do and why we do it.
Right. Cool.
So out here is mostly manufacturing. We got some
Look
inventory
at these.
and process.
Look at these beauties. You.
Those are all some leftover Gen 2 clamps right there.
Oh, these are the old guys.
And the new stuff is over here.
Some stems. Some Gen 3s.
Yeah,
Wow, look at these pieces.
these are Gen 3 Pros.
Incredible. And these are the ones that the race teams run, right?
Yeah,
Called MX guys?
same color.
Yeah, same color. Right.
They run essentially the same clamps, just slight changes in where the logo's placed and that sort of thing.
Right. Cool.
We have a fiber laser here, so all of our logos and markings. So logos, all the torques, anything that's laser etched is done right here. So all in house, we can do custom laser stuff. So having this makes it really nice.
Yeah, super trick.
Over here we have these two machines. This is our main machine. Just got finished running some Yamaha clamps. So we have a 3-axis setup for the parts here. And I don't have anything in process right now. But it starts out as 12-foot bars. And then they're cut up into clamp-sized pieces, which then 2 at a time, and then we're back here. We cut half of it out. When that's done, we flip it over and it sits in this contoured jaw. And we cut the other half. Then we take it off and it goes onto the rotary fixture, where it sits on here, and this thing will rotate all around, so it hits all the pinch bolt threads and the slots and everything else.
Yeah, so I'm learning all about this as you guys are learning about it. This is literally first take, so.
So this is 3 setups to get 1 triple clamp. Then you do the tops and bottoms here.
Wow, it's impressive.
Behind you is the lathe. This we do steering stems on with the Yamaha stem. The lathe takes a piece of bar stock, again comes in 12-foot lengths. We cut it up into usable lengths, like that. And then it's prepped with a hole in the middle. And then it goes in and we cut the rest of the contours to come up with the final stem.
Wow, it's just awesome to see how the bits and pieces come together, you know, from raw materials to the beautiful unit we just saw over there. It's
Yeah.
pretty awesome to see the whole process.
Behind you we're cutting out some bar mounts. So this, we have a fixture to do 4 at a time. And this is on the second setup, so they flipped over from the first half. So you can see it's kind of partly through the third one there, the main roughing operation.
Right. Really trick. Yeah, so talk to me about just sort of the design and engineering process you go through. Like, what sort of application do you use to do all the modeling and everything, all the stress testing? And
Let's get away from the machine first.
yeah.
I'm gonna finish this up and then we'll...
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
Anyway, this is what we're making. So that's the final part. Air compressor. Over here we have a tumbler. So the parts go in here when they're done machined. into these porcelain balls, and it just knocks off all the tiny burrs and gives it a nice shine. So this thing, makes a good racket.
Yeah. Really nice.
Wash it off here, and then it stays up for anodized. We just dropped off a bunch of anodized, so there's nothing sitting here, but there's normally a pile of parts.
And who do you use? Who do you use for anodizing?
We got some guys down the street that we've used for years now, and they're really good.
Okay.
So we do an electropolish process before the anodized, so it makes it nice and shiny, and then the anodized.
Nice. Cool.
It's proper stuff, so it doesn't fade like some of the other people's reds turn to pink over time. Ours stay red.
Awesome.
So they're really good. We've worked with them for a while.
Awesome.
Some manual machines in case you need to do some quick touch-ups or some one-off parts. Everything's a bit of a mess because we've been slammed.
I bet with the Pro Nationals kicking off, huh?
Yeah, it was nuts the last couple weeks.
I bet. You guys have probably been busy.
Here we got bins for chips. They're almost full right now, separated by alloy. So when the machines finish making the parts, there's a whole bunch of chips. So those get put in here and then recycled. Miscellaneous leftover parts or chunks of material. We got a couple project bikes. This is our 150 build that's on Vital right now.
Saw this, yeah.
That's the 350 build that was on Vital. That'll actually be in I believe the next issue of Motocross Action.
Oh, guys, look how nice this build is. Whew.
But that's the bike I'm currently riding. Hopefully riding this one soon.
Man, look at these clamps over here. They're kind of just like glowing. They're so nice and shiny. Wow, guys.
Yamaha Gen 3 standard clamps, so they're about $300 cheaper than the Pro clamps you saw earlier. But yeah, they're nice and shiny because of that electropolish process.
And now both of these are Yamaha, so blue and black.
Yeah.
Nice. Check that out, guys. And one thing I personally like that I think we're going to do with this bike, right, is the Varg actually only comes with one bar mount option. So Luxon's going to hook us up with an option to have multiple bar clamp options. I think you guys are going to really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's basically going to be the same as our Gen 3 Pro clamp. So
right.
6 bar positions front to back, and then 4 different heights.
Yeah, 6, right. That's important because you can turn the bar mounts around and it kind of offsets it a bit, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome.
Like I was saying, the material comes in 12-foot lengths. It goes up onto the rollers there and then cut off into chunks that are usable. We usually buy 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of aluminum at a time.
And where do you, just out of curiosity, where do you source your stock at?
We have a couple different suppliers. All the raw stock is U.S. made, but comes from different distributors depending on who has the better price or what alloy we're looking for.
You hear that, guys? All U.S. made. Bet you're proud of that.
And then, yeah, obviously, U.S. machines.
Yeah, U.S. made materials and machines. So you're getting U.S. made products from Luxon.
Over here we got the packaging area. These are all boxed up for shipping over here. Presses and whatnot for final assembly. Those clamps are all just waiting on bearings. That's why they're all just sitting there. This is engineering space again, currently filled up with the 150 build bits and pieces. General storage.
Look how many pieces are involved in a gas bike. Little less on an electric bike, and we'll see that in a sec. But yeah, they cover all their bases here for sure.
All right, and then in here we got some more storage, photo area, another bike that we're using for some templating and coming up with some new products. Electrical testing, some test bed stuff. The computers behind you are the server rack. We've got 3 different computers for solving analysis runs, and then one is our file server. So depending on what kind of analysis we're doing, we'll use one of those 3. So lots of computational power there.
So 3 processors?
3 different computers. The main one has 2 physical processors with 16 physical cores each, a terabyte of RAM, And,
Terabyte of RAM. You hear that, guys?
yeah, and a whole bunch of NVMe drives. So
Nice.
It's super fast.
It's the processing power it takes to engineer great products. Right here. Awesome, guys.
And then 3D printers and miscellaneous other things to kind of help out with prototyping.
Yeah, I've actually, unfortunately, because Alta went out of business, I've had to 3D print some of my own products for my bike.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of experience with that. It's a fun process, you know, going through the design phase and prototyping and coming to a functioning part.
Yeah.
It's just fun. So you do it for business, of course, but
Yeah.
I kind of did it out of necessity. Really cool.
Yeah, if you want, I can get you over to the computer and show you some things.
All right, let's take a look.
All right, so most of our CAD work
SolidWorks.
is done in SolidWorks.
So for you guys that don't know, SolidWorks is really the most professional engineering application, I think, right? Would you agree? Out there, I mean, there's certainly
For CAD work,
Yeah.
it's up there. It
there's
depends on
certainly
industry
other options,
and-
but
yeah, for what we do, it's basically top of the line.
looks like we have a stress. What would you call that? A stress map?
Yeah, I'll show you some of that too on the actual parts.
It's another one of some gears meshing together. Looks like the red points are the high stress points, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the contour shows the stress levels, red being the highest and then blue being the lowest.
So while you're looking at this, like, how'd you get started? You know, and have you been doing this for many years?
So I started engineering consulting. Well, I formed the company in 2007 on the engineering side, and I grew up racing mountain bikes. So I raced semi-pro, pro level 20 years and 40 pounds ago. And I got burnt out on that, started riding moto back in like 99 or so. And I rode until about 2004 and woke up in the ambulance too many times. So the doctor said I shouldn't do that again. So I quit and finished college. Started my engineering firm in 2007. And I kind of got the itch to ride again in 2012. Bought a YZ250 two-stroke. Started riding, and then around 2014, I was like, I could probably do some moto products because it's kind of lacking on the engineering side there.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the company in 2014 officially, and it was always like a real rough side project. Like if there's an extra hour, I'd mess around and try.
So what type of engineering did you do before starting?
Mechanical.
And in what industry?
Most every industry. In San Diego, there's a lot of healthcare, medical device. We worked on a bunch of spinal implants, various different types of medical devices. We do a lot of energy stuff all across the board: wind, solar, oil, nuclear. Consumer electronics.
So it's really interesting. You're able to leverage all of that experience across all those industries and apply some concepts, perhaps, of what you've learned in those industries to the moto side.
Yeah, really the moto side is mostly the lightweighting end of things from the other engineering experience, where you have to come up with a design that's strong enough and adequate stiffness, flex,
Right.
in the appropriate directions, yet really light. So that's why what drew us to the motocross side is the triple clamps, and then suspension linkages and that sort of thing kind of ties in there.
Right.
We have some miscellaneous products that are more driven by the fact that we had project bikes. Most of the project bikes have been KTM, so that's why you have way more KTM stuff than anything else.
But now you're venturing into Yamahas and other brands as well, right?
Yeah.
Now
So
Stark, of course.
The last couple of years we've had the other brands clamps, so Yamaha, Honda, Cowie. We haven't done Suzuki just because they haven't come out with a new bike and the demand just isn't there.
Right. So outside of the, I guess, that aqua color you see here, the blue you showed me, the black, and I guess you have a red as well. Are there other color options?
Yeah, we do the standard colors for different bikes. So black for everything. Cowie we have green, Yamaha blue, Honda red, KTM Husky gas, blue, red, orange.
Okay.
We've done all sorts of custom colors, so we can do most anything within reason.
I wonder what color we should go with for Stark Vargs. I mean, red is the obvious option, I think, and black, right? But you know,
Yeah, they offered a bunch of different plastics colors. Obviously,
Yeah.
black. I
You
think
know.
one of the big needs is going to, wants rather, is going to be adjustable offset too.
and that too, yeah,
that,
for sure.
We need that. So here's the CAD. This is the Gen 3 Pro Yamaha triple clamps. So this is just the 3D assembly of everything. So everything's done in the computer. So if you open up a single part, like the lower triple clamp, the hard parts are all defined by the bike. So where the steering stem exists relative to the fork tubes, their diameters, how far apart they are, and all that.
So how do you come up with, you know, the design in terms of the spaces we see here, the shape of the various spaces? Obviously, that you have the steering stop that's kind of defined, right?
Yeah.
Just maybe talk about that, how you come up with that ultimate design.
So you can obviously go to our website. On the technology page, it goes over the general process. So we do what's called a topology optimization, and for that we use a software called Altair HyperWorks. There's other softwares out there that do similar things or claim to do similar things, but this is really the premier software to do this. We can really only afford this because we use it on the engineering side.
Mm-hmm.
It's super expensive.
And so what is it? Is it like an iterative approach where it starts with a concept, and after couple iterations it lands at a final product?
Yeah, so here's the general process. So you define over here on the left areas that have to be there. In this case, they're blue. So this is our Gen 2 clamp, but where the bar mounts attach, where the fork tubes are, and then connect that with as much material as can be there, that's the yellow. So you then tell the software what the loads are on the part, and there's a lot of different loads simulated. You have your normal riding loads, forces in all different directions. You also have crash loads. There's a lot.
And do you design clamps for top pros slightly differently than the average consumer because of the stress characteristics for riders, or is it just you kind of design for pros and let everybody else use it kind of thing?
Not the stress characteristics so much as the stiffness characteristics.
Maybe that was the wrong word. Yeah. So like maybe stiffness and flex, right?
Yeah. And we can look into that on this actually, but let's just to finish this.
Mm-hmm.
The software knows all the forces the parts are going to see, and then I tell it what the goals are of the analysis, which generally it's maximize stiffness in certain directions, maintain a particular stiffness in other directions for comfort, subject to a constraint of stress so it can't get too weak, and go as light as possible. And then it performs that iterative process where it's all done in the computer. The computer's calculating and figure out where the material needs to be. So this second picture here, the red areas are where it needs to be the most, and then the lighter colors are where it's not quite as important, and you can clip away the material that doesn't need to be there. From there, you put it into a CAD system like SolidWorks over here, and come up with your interpretation of what the stress model showed, and that's why it has this funny design that you don't really see anywhere else.
Right. I wouldn't say it's funny. I think it's pretty trick looking.
Yeah, different design.
Yeah, different. Let's say different, yeah.
Then you reanalyze this design in that same Altair software. So then it gives you the stress result, the number 3 here, of that resulting design. Do some iterations, knock out some hot spots of stresses, and lighten it up even more, and come up with your final design.
Right.
So this number 3 here, you're also figuring out what the performance is from stiffness in different directions. You know the weight at this point, and you know the strength. So that's all tabulated in a giant Excel sheet.
And do you have, target tolerances and things that you just know after experience that you're kind of shooting for?
Yeah. So obviously weight's easy. You want as light as possible. Strength is pretty easy. You already know the forces. That took some time to come up with all that. But as long as you can handle those forces, your strength's fine. The stiffness is the question mark. And that's where we leverage our experience in the testing. We're on Gen 3 triple clamps now, so we know pretty well what people want.
And do you find that the preference for maybe supercross is a little bit different than maybe an outdoor clamp, or is it pretty across the board, faster guys like a certain feel? kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so generally the faster guys like things stiffer
Yep.
than the slower guys, and that's simply because they're hitting everything faster. Even like the top pros, if you see first place on the track, take their lap time and look at like the slower privateers. The privateers are fast, but they're 10% slower than the fast guys. So
Right.
the fast guy's hitting things 10% harder, so he's going to want things 10% stiffer.
Right.
Just a rough rule of thumb. It's not quite that easy, but general idea. So our Gen 3 Pro clamps are actually adjustable to an extent. So in general, you want as much stiffness as possible in some directions, regardless of who's riding. And that's vertically and in torsion, meaning turning. So you want torsion to be good for steering precision. You want vertical so that the forks do all the work. If your clamps are super flexy, then they'll actually flex and throw your fork tubes out of alignment, and it'll actually feel more rigid because now your bushings are binding up.
Right.
So a lot of people think like stock KTM clamps are super rigid, and they're not. They're actually super flexy. And that's part of the issue, is it's binding everything up, so it feels rigid. So we actually make ours as rigid as possible in those directions, so it holds the forks more aligned and it feels more supple.
That's another thing I really appreciate about your company here, is that you really just take an engineering approach to solving these problems. It's not like just simply going by feel, because if guys go by feel, they may think, just what you said,
Yeah.
that, oh, these clamps are super stiff, but actually it's the exact opposite. And it's, sort of throwing off or giving them a false conception of what's really happening. And you're just like going right to the data, right to the analysis, and figuring out what's going on and solving those issues. So that's really cool.
Well, you need both. The key here is to leverage both test results from rider feedback and the actual data.
Right.
There's a lot of rider feedback that's hot garbage, and then there's a lot that's good.
There's probably also riders that don't know how to give proper feedback, right?
Yeah. So you kind of take the feedback and combine that with your expectations from your numbers and analyze it, and then tweak things a little bit, and then go out and give them something else. You do a lot of blind testing, back-to-back stuff, and eventually you come up with a design that's really good.
So are guys like the Luxon MX team really giving you solid feedback to help you iterate these designs and improve the product further even more? I mean, you're at Gen 3 already. I'm sure it's highly advanced at this point.
Yeah. So the other stiffness direction we haven't really talked about is front to back, or the other main one, and that's really where you're getting comfort for the most part. So our split clamp really provides a lot of comfort by allowing that fork tube to flex without a kink. And we can kind of go back to the website here. So this split triple clamps, are they better? Goes through why this split really is important. And basically it comes down to this. If this is really rigid here at your lower clamp, it kind of kinks the fork tube when you're bending front to back. And as your bushing travels through there, it gets really harsh and rigid. So if you can separate the clamp, it mellows out this kink a little bit and allows the bushing to travel through there easier, and you get a more plush fork. So you always want this split no matter what. There are guys that...
And would you say the lower is a lot more important than the upper because of that kink point?
Yeah, the upper doesn't matter at all.
Oh, okay.
Our Gen 2 clamps weren't split at all because of that. Gen 3 is only split, sort of. It's half split. It doesn't go all the way through because people like the look.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's...
it does look really nice split like that.
It's a touch lighter.
It's a touch lighter, right.
The Gen 2, I mean, we're talking like grams. It's not much lighter. It didn't look as cool, but it allowed more space for a logo.
Hey,
that was really the driver.
Couple grams here, couple grams there, it all adds up.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a big window here, but it's not actually split. It's tied together in the front. Our lower clamp on the Gen 3 Pro, we're shipping with this link here. So you can actually link the back part together. You still get a good chunk of that benefit of the split here because this still allows the fork tube to flex more. But this ties the back together, which gives you a touch more stiffness front to back. So if you look close on like Jeremy Martin's bike, his is actually tied together permanently there. That was the one we came up with in December-ish before Supercross, and he's still riding with it now. The other guys, well, up until probably now, were riding on our Gen 2 clamps, which are fully split. And I just delivered them the latest Gen 3 Pros because we just finished them last week, that have the fully split, and then you can add this link here to tighten it up if you want. So it's the only clamp I know of that has an adjustable.
Yeah, that's the first I've seen by far that has that sort of adjustability. And so just in terms of feel for the average guy, are they going to feel that difference on the bike? Where would they feel that? In the kink point, really?
It's not so much this, the benefit of the split clamp there. The benefit's still there because this can still flex independently of this quite a bit.
Right.
This actually stiffens up the overall front to back stiffness.
Okay.
Different than the
right.
the
Okay.
split
I understand. Yep.
So.
But I mean, that's awesome that, you know, a rider has that adjustability in the clamp. You know, because frankly, no other clamp offers that adjustability.
So the real fast guys, when they're hitting things hard and they're hitting big G outs, if you get too much flex front to back, then you're essentially changing your rake angle.
Yep.
And the bike wants to wander a little bit. The slower guys, it's not as much of a problem because they're not hitting as fast. It's not changing the rake angle as much.
So for you know, average Joe motocross, he might not need that.
Yeah.
Just keep it looking trick, you know, open. And you know, if you need that little extra stiffness, maybe these clamps make you go faster and you progress into needing the brace.
So for reference, like Jeremy Martin wants it connected there. The original clamps before this was introduced, he was having that wandering issue. Ken Roxon said the same thing. A lot of the other guys are running it fully split and they like it. Enzo Lopes actually ran Gen 2 clamps all through Supercross just because he liked them better than the more stiff version of the Gen 3. Now they have this available so they can tune one way or the other.
Right.
So everybody's a little bit different too.
Yeah.
So even fast guys at the local track.
Guys running the same lap times can have two different feel preferences, right? Yeah. But again, I think that's great that you offer that adjustability to allow the rider to find the feel they're looking for in a product like this. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Great. And then can you talk a little bit about the adjustable offset?
Yeah. So.
Oh, I see. This product is for a very special guy that unfortunately had some bad luck this past weekend.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chris Kiefer.
Hopefully testing with him soon.
Getting a sneak peek at Chris's clamps.
So these are the same as the production clamps. These inserts change on the production clamps because they're anodized. These ones aren't anodized. Our anodizer has a bunch of parts right now that we're waiting to get back, but we'll have them back soon enough. But same idea, these would just be different colors. So the way this works is the Pro clamp shipped with two stems. It's got an OEM bearing, so no skimping there. The top clamp gets the insert that's bolted in here. The bolts really just hold it so it doesn't fall out. It's a really tight tolerance fit in there, so transfers the loads nicely. You can see this offset set at 24. If you flip this around, it's then set at 21. Yeah, so you can see here's a different actual insert. It's thinner on one side than the other.
Right.
So the bore is actually offset from the outer diameter. This is the 22-23 offset version. And then the stems are similar. You flip it around in the clamp. So right now it's at 24. If you flip this, it goes to 21.
That's a pretty big jump in offset change just in a single clamp.
And then 22-23 on this, and you can see that this part of the stem is eccentric from the rest of it.
So with the two stem options, in this particular setup, he can go from 21 all the way up to 24 in 1 degree increments?
Yeah.
Or 1 millimeter increments, sorry, not degree. Really nice. And just for the people out there that don't understand what offset feels like and changes, can you just describe that real quick?
Yeah, so the offset changes the distance from the steering stem and the bearings and the chassis and the frame to the fork tube. So a really big offset would put your fork tubes further out. Shorter gets closer in. So in general, the longer offset is more stable at speed than the shorter offset.
And so would you say if a rider feels like their front end is a little too twitchy, they would want to consider a higher offset clamp and vice versa?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really depending on like how they feel their bike's handling, what they want to change to do better, and they can decide from there, basically.
Yeah. So a lot of the bikes ship stock with something that's more nimble, so it turns really easy. For a slower rider, that's a good thing. But if you're fast and running high-speed tracks, then you generally want a longer offset. That's not true across the whole board.
You find that
bikes, but
for faster pros, they typically run higher offsets for more stability.
yeah, and the top pros are messing with other things like they have offset races, which is a different thing entirely. That kicks the fork out to increase rake, which changes some other things, or you could even decrease it and go the other way. So it gets complex pretty quick when you're playing with all these variables. So there's a lot of adjustments to think about. So it's hard, like when somebody calls and asks, "Hey, what offset do you want for this?" I'm like, "Well,
how's your bike set up?
This.
Yeah, how's your bike set up? How do you feel? What do you want it to feel like, etc." And that's actually a great point. Is I think there's not many guys mess around with their setups and try to like explore different feelings in their bike. They kind of just get a bike and leave it as it is and really don't touch much or try anything and think that that's how a bike's supposed to feel. When there's these options like this out there for customers where they can actually make the bike feel how it's comfortable for them. And so I think that's an important part of this. I think maybe some guys overlook products like this, but it can make a drastic difference to how the bike handles, how you feel on the bike, and really is actually a critical part on the bike.
Yeah.
Any chassis component is critical for just your experience on the motocross bike. So definitely recommend you guys check out Luxon's products. I think he's got a product for pretty much everything besides the banana bikes, but maybe one day. Great. Well, thanks, Billy, for showing us all this. I can't wait to see what we can do with the Stark Varg, and sure we'll be including some details on that here soon. So head on over to Luxon MX, guys, and check out their products. And hey, if you have any questions, shoot Billy a message on Instagram or email on the website.
Best.
I think he prefers email. He's really busy here. He's kind of running the shop by himself. Do you have employees as well?
Yeah, I've got a couple guys remote, another engineer, he's just not here right now. A lot of it's done by me, but
just out of pure passion, drive. I mean, that's
stupidity.
Just stupidity. Hey, you get to ride sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thanks for having me, and let's go get to work on the Stark.
Yeah.
All right.